There's been an awakening on YouTube. Have you felt it? It's as though over a dozen creators have made Star Wars videos and have decided to release them all at once. This is Star Wars Defined, a series where we celebrate the elements that make Star Wars important to us. This isn't a cool kids club, but an invitation for all of you to create videos of your own. It can be about a video game, a comic, a single scene, or an entire character's journey. If it celebrates Star Wars and you send it to the link below, we'll add it to the playlist. Now, while many of my peers have decided to talk about great moments of Star Wars past, today I want to talk about Star Wars' future, and how one special show has created a foundation for the stories yet to come. I think it's safe to say that we're entering a new era of Star Wars. The sequel trilogy is wrapping up, and the spin-offs are moving from the big screen to Disney's lucrative new streaming service, Disney+. The first of these streaming spin-offs, and the first live-action Star Wars show in history, is The Mandalorian, a show centered around a bounty hunter that takes place after the events of Return of the Jedi. Being the headline attraction for Disney+, and also having a hefty price tag of $100 million, a lot is riding on the success of this show. So much so that Disney titans Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have been tasked with leading this project. It's interesting to look at how these spin-off storylines have evolved. While Rogue One was mostly well-received and grossed an impressive $1 billion, Solo: A Star Wars Story was plagued with behind-the-scenes drama and controversy and ended up becoming the first Star Wars film to lose money. Solo was a turning point for Lucasfilm, a sign that their methods weren't exactly working, causing them to blink on future movies. While there definitely were external problems that hindered Solo's success, first and foremost, the collapse of these spin-offs stemmed from the problems in their storytelling. Don't get me wrong, Rogue One and Solo are very competent movies. They have fun characters, understandable plots, exciting action sequences, all the things you'd want from a good Star Wars story. Instead, their critical flaws were far more internal. You know, their soul. That both films, to varying degrees, failed to live up to their premises. While these films are supposed to highlight new characters and give us a more specific look at this galaxy, more often than not, they relied on reliving the moments, aesthetics, and characters of the older movies. When push came to shove, they reveled in updating iconic beats from the original trilogy. It's the thing you love, but faster and shinier. We all know which scene embodies this the most. Now this is a fun scene. It's the most lethal dose of nostalgia Disney has ever administered. But when this is the most memorable moment in your film, I think it speaks less of the rest of the film than the strength of the scene itself. As long as they're chasing this, these spin-offs will continue to flounder. This is why I had concerns going into The Mandalorian, first and foremost being the title. Mandalorian isn't a character name, but a type of class in the Star Wars universe, most known for their signature armor and their skills as warriors. In the films, Mandalorian representation exclusively belongs to Boba Fett and Jango Fett, two mysterious bounty hunters who become tertiary antagonists for our heroes. They aren't so much characters as they are obstacles to overcome. They're intimidating, resourceful, intelligent, anything that provides a meaningful challenge. In a word, they're cool. Like this. This is cool. But cool isn't why we fell in love with Star Wars. Cool can't sustain 4 hours of storytelling. Pedro Pascal is an incredible actor, but putting a metal helmet on his head inherently limits our ability to connect with him, something necessary for our leading man. There are so many ways this story can go wrong, so many ways The Mandalorian could indulge the worst aspects of modern Star Wars. But instead, we got one of the best Star Wars stories yet. One of the best elements of this story is the lens it's told through, our Mandalorian. Where initially I thought the silent mass nature of our protagonist would hinder our ability to connect with him, it turns out that the filmmakers used the limitations of the character to their advantage. Since the story is told silently through his point of view, The Mandalorian allows its supporting cast to really shine. Carl Weathers as the Contact, Nick Nolte as an Ugnaught, Taika Waititi as a robot bounty hunter. The casting alone tells you everything you need to know about these characters. Seriously though, Werner Herzog as an ex-Imperial officer is the best casting choice since Nick Cage's Spider-Man Noir. How the supporting cast reacts to The Mandalorian tells us as much about The Mandalorian as it does about their characters. The Mandalorian reveals himself by how he interacts with this world. Because if we can't see his face, and we don't hear him talk much, there's only one other way The Mandalorian can express his character. The action in this show is fantastic, and is once again helped out by its limitations. The show walks the perfect tightrope of showing the Mandalorian being good at his job, while also giving him difficult obstacles to overcome. The show establishes the Mandalorian's skill with each weapon, and then presents him with multiple scenarios where he has to use these skills creatively to get out of sticky situations. The key to these action scenes is that the Mandalorian is always the underdog. His enemies always have the upper hand.
We have you 4-1.
I like those odds.
Not only does this make the character all the more relatable, but it also adds a sense of urgency as he rarely comes out of these confrontations unscathed. Not once does he perform a move that looks unbelievable or done by a digital double. It's just grounded, tangible action. In an age where the things possible in action are limitless, The Mandalorian instead takes inspiration from older genres. The shootout at the end of Chapter 1 evokes the desperate final stand from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And the crawling fortress chase in Episode 2 is oozing with classic Indiana Jones staging. This is my favorite set piece in the show so far, and sets a high bar for the series going forward. The scene has a geographical goal in climbing the fortress, the Mandalorian's movements are fast but not unrealistic, plus the beats have a nice back and forth of actions, setbacks, and points of tension. Also, seeing Jawas being thrown from windows just never gets old. Finally, the scene establishes something crucial going forward. For an action show, the action foundation established in these first few episodes is stellar, but these actions only matter so far as the story they serve. The action endears us to the Mandalorian, but it's not why we truly care. We care because of the show's secret weapon. Baby Yoda is scientifically the cutest thing ever made. I don't make up the rules. Seriously, this little rascal has taken the internet by storm, and has utterly dominated the show's coverage. While his infectious lovability is a pretty strong marketing pull, it's also the heart of the story, the relationship between him and the Mandalorian. I mentioned before how the Mandalorian's mask limited our ability to connect with him. It distances us from his emotions and vulnerability, all the things we as audiences crave. Baby Yoda is the answer to these barriers, a beautiful creature that's impossible not to love. Without a doubt, the best moments of the show are when the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda are silently interacting. There's a lot of purposeful storytelling happening within these silent moments. This relationship is definitely helped out by Greg Fraser's intimate cinematography. The show has a distinct shallow-focused look that really highlights smaller details. It creates a sense that you, the audience member, are actually there, observing these moments as though they're happening right in front of you. This technique is put to the test through the relationship between the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. Whenever Baby Yoda does something adorable, we see it through the Mandalorian's point of view, leaving us to project our feelings onto the Mandalorian's blank expression. Similarly, the show likes to put us in Baby Yoda's point of view to emphasize the nurturing side of the Mandalorian, as well as to heighten the dangers of his surrounding environment. The Mandalorian's mission is to transport Baby Yoda safely to a destination that's far from safe. This tension builds while their bond continues to grow, complicated by Baby Yoda saving the Mandalorian.
Why would an enemy help you in battle?
It did not know it was my enemy.
Despite all the aliens and obstacles sent his way, the biggest dilemma the Mandalorian faces is a moral one. It's easy to be a cold bounty hunter when your targets are so dangerous and sleazy, but when the mission is so unquestionably wrong, it forces the Mandalorian to make a decision. Ultimately, this is the core of this story. What makes all these Baby Yoda scenes so important is how it forces the Mandalorian into an active character. The Mandalorian's attributes don't set him up well for being a leading man. He's a passive character, doing other characters' bidding, not caring about the consequences of his actions, only his rewards. He then uses these rewards to upgrade his armor so he can do better on the next mission. During these oh-so-crucial montages, the forging of his armor is intercut with memories of losing his parents. All he's after is more protection. Protection from fear, from pain, from loss, protection from being human. This is his only purpose in life, a walking shell attempting to create a harder shell. Masks have a long history in Star Wars, often being used to strike fear and terror, or to hide a character's emotions and identity. But now, this applies to our main character. We can't watch the Mandalorian stare at a binary sunset or fall in love during a sweeping adventure. The mask won't allow it. And this is the beauty of Baby Yoda. Through the Mandalorian's eyes, we see this pure, wonderful being, so filled with life, potential, hope. But that's not his job. His job is to deliver the asset, no questions asked.
What are your plans for it?
How uncharacteristic of one of your reputation.
When his feelings get the better of him, he hides himself in another coat of armor, his shiniest one yet. He's got a new mission, and he's ready to get back to work, and... this was the moment. The moment I knew that The Mandalorian was reinventing Star Wars. It's not just because the show has reserved and punishing action. It's not just because the story puts us in the Mandalorian's shoes and exposes us to his fears. And it's not just because we really fucking care about Baby Yoda. It's because all of these elements come together and tell a purposeful story. I talk a lot on this channel about defining character through action, and the Mandalorian going back to save Baby Yoda is about as pure as it gets. We see him use all of his tools for a greater purpose, making judgment calls on who to kill and who to save. Ultimately, this whole action is given weight because the Mandalorian didn't think it all through. At first, he's all composed and badass, but as he runs out of weapons and options, we gradually see him become desperate. He only makes it through because the supporting cast were there to do him a solid, which is beginning to become a running gag for the show. In these first few episodes, the show establishes its world, the stakes, a wide array of supporting characters, and why the Mandalorian must leave them all behind to protect Baby Yoda. On paper, this premise sounds as fanfiction-y as you can get. Not Boba Fett taking care of not Yoda? But it isn't. Because there's so much more to these characters beyond who they are on the surface. That's the ultimate purpose of this show. Taking familiar settings and characters and finding new stories to tell within them. That within every cool armored soldier is an interesting character hiding, waiting to tell their story. Alright, that's all the time I have. And remember, if you want to be a part of this series, send your video to the link below and we'll add it to the playlist. McClunky.